Last week I was dropping the tank. This week I'm working on the engine, just trying to get that ready to crank over, see what parts I need to replace. Hopefully not too many. I have a good idea of what I'll be replacing. And hopefully this engine didn't seize and it'll turn over. Probably something I should have checked from the very beginning. But I do want to drop some Marvel Mystery Oil into each cylinder head just to ensure that it's not seized and everything turns over. So you can tell the battery tray, it's seen better days. That gaping hole right there should not be there. And that bolt that holds it down right there in the center, that is not factory. As I was looking for my shock, I found this battery tray in much better shape, needs a bit of a refresh, even has the factory hold down bolt. So I will be taking this out because that is just, that's a problem waiting to happen. I did not see that last bolt there. You can see I've sprayed it because it is rusted really good. I mean, the thread's very rusted, deteriorated. I sprayed it. I'm hoping it'll loosen up. If not, I may just have to break the head off, which is likely what will happen. We'll see. I mean, I got it to twist a little bit, but I couldn't get it to twist any further, so we'll see what happens. Worst comes to worst, it'll break out. The good thing is the nut that holds it is welded to the battery pan, so if the bolt does break, not a big deal. So instead, I'm going to take off this ratty looking hood liner. You can tell I had an animal chew a hole in it right in there, and it's never looked very good. You can see it looks kind of ratty. So the hole in it, I'm just going to toss it. I know people say, oh, you should have it. It protects the paint on your hood. I did not run one on another Blazer that I had painted. Never had an issue with it. And this one just looks so bad that I'd rather just get rid of it. So I'd pried this wire out of the top of my fuel pump, the gas tank. A little difficult to pry out. Well, you know, I made a bit of a mistake. This wire does not pry out. Looked it up online just to see a replacement, see if I could see where the wires were. And I noticed the wires. So if you trace this wire here all the way up, that is the ground right there. There's a screw that is, I don't even know how you reach it. It's right below this body panel. And then this is the plug right here for the fuel pump. It just unplugs. So dang, man, I messed that up. I hope get that back in. You know, there's no guarantee the fuel pump still works. It's been sitting for a while. I've never replaced it on this vehicle, and I had this vehicle for quite a while, so I might need a new fuel pump anyway. At least we'll like the opportunity to try this one. I will see if I can piece it back together, but you know, if you're removing the fuel pump, that's it. And I should have known this. It's not like this is the first fuel pump I've removed. I've removed a couple of them, and I don't know, man. I should have traced the wires and looked at it. I didn't. These spark plug wires have not been fun. You can see those wires. They're sitting right there. They are off. I just have them sitting right there, so I remember where the wires go in case I need to remember that later. Let's check out the other side, too. I mean, these things, they're in a tight spot. They did not want to come off these. These are all off, too. You can kind of see the wires just sitting on the end of that. You can see where it's clean, where I've pulled it off. But, man, I had a difficult time getting these wires off. They did not want to come. You really can't grip it with your fingers because of these heat shields to make it so you really can't get a good grip on it. I tried a couple different things. I tried yanking really hard. That did not really work. So there really isn't any magic to this, how I'm getting these spark plug wires out. You can see this white line. This is my piece of just copper wire. I think it's like 14 gauge solid copper wire. And I've got it wrapped around the spark plug boot. So you can see there's heat shields here, which makes it really difficult to get a good grip on it. So I loop the wire, push it far onto the boot where it's kind of behind the boot, pulling the boot off. And in this case, I've got it going right through the wheel well, because just that way I can pull straight rather than trying to pull up, because I want it to come out this way. And that's all there is to it. Now, it's a little bit tricky trying to work this thing around the spark plug boot and get it tight, so it does help it slip off. But you know, if you work with it, a pair of pliers can certainly help to kind of tighten it up and get it looped around it. And then it gets them off. I mean, God, it just seems like there should be a better way. I don't know. It makes me question, what am I doing? I thought I knew what I was doing. I think I still know what I'm doing, but it's just, I did not like this design at all. Ultimately, what I did, I had this piece of wire, and I would just kind of loop it around the spark plug, push it beyond the boot where it's actually touching the porcelain, and it's kind of, and then I'd pull it tight right in front of the boot, so that way I just kind of yank it with the wire. And that worked surprisingly well, and that was a little tricky getting the loop around. Uh-oh, so it's falling down. it was a little tricky getting the loop tight around the spark plug in front of the boot, because I'm not trying to yank the spark plug out, I'm trying to yank the boot off. So it's a little tight working it in there, but once I got it in, once I kind of pulled the loop tight with a pair of pliers and then pulled, the spark plug wires come off quite easily. Maybe I just need a spark plug wrench that does effectively the same thing. Might have worked a little bit better, but I didn't have one and it's late at night, so kind of stuck using what I've got on hand. And this was not fun. It makes me think, have I ever pulled spark plug wires before? Because this has just been so difficult. It makes you question everything you think you know. And this has just been, it's been a job. But the wires are off. I'm going to call it a night. I'm going to take the spark plugs out tomorrow. I've sprayed them down with some WD-40s. Hopefully that will ease that process. These wires, man. Like one wire, pulled it off my wire method, and the boot came off, but the rubber, like just beyond where the wire attached to the spark plug, that rubber was attached to the spark plug, and I actually had to cut it with a razor blade because it was so hard and so just stuck on there that I couldn't pull it off, couldn't even get it to move. So that's probably part of the reason I'm having trouble with these spark plug wires. That rubber has just been in here so long, it's gotten hardened and basically fused to the spark plugs. Oh, wow. So getting the Marvel Mystery Oil into each cylinder was not as easy as I thought it would be. So you see I've got this tube, I always keep a bunch of tubes on hand, and a funnel, and so I would just feed the end of the tube through the spark plug cylinder hole and pour a little bit of Marvel Mystery Oil into the funnel and try to get it into the cylinder head. A little bit messy, I got Marvel Mystery Oil everywhere because it's not the easiest thing to do. It's cramped little engine bay despite it being an American car. But I've poured at least some amount into each cylinder, so that is good. I don't know when I'm actually going to start this thing up. Right now I'm trying to do my preparatory work. I think next we'll probably be turning the crank by hand just to make sure it does turn over, which it needs to. I definitely clean out the radiator still. I still need to get my fuel tank. Still need to buy, I need to replace spark plugs, fuel filter, may need to get the fuel pump. I'll have to check on that. So plenty to do. Did pull my spark plugs out. Very curious, I've got that one there. It is not matched the rest. All the others look like they are kind of the same style or whatever. I mean, that's weird. I don't know why one doesn't match. Spark plugs, all of them look pretty good. There's one, that one looked a little lean. All the rest of them look pretty good. A little bit, they did look like they certainly need to be replaced. So what I'm going to do, I've pulled the spark plugs. I looked inside the cylinder head. There's not a lot of contrast to this little camera that I had, so I couldn't see much. The things looked, I guess, good. I don't know. I'm just going to pour like a tablespoon of Marvel Mystery Oil into each cylinder head because this is going to be sitting for 5 years. That way just, make sure there's some lubrication going on and maybe, cut through anything that may have built up, rust, whatever. Hopefully no rust. And it's just been mostly sealed, but can never be too careful. So this is a video watching a video. I know that's tough, but I realized I had this little camera and scope. So I'm just going inside the spark plug holes, looking inside the engine. It is not easy because this camera is oriented a certain way, and when it rotates, you really can't see as much. So now that is inside. So you're looking at the top of the piston, and I would guess it looks like some kind of carbon buildup. I'm guessing. I don't know. Kind of hard to maneuver the camera in there. You can see like these pistons have, is it concave? A little concave spot. It's like, I don't know, man. Is that rust? I think my valve seals leak, so it could be oil. It's hard to tell. It's hard to maneuver this camera. The camera is not the best thing in the world, so seeing what's going on is a little difficult. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of fun to see what's in here and checking things out, but it really gives you a lot to be desired because you just can't quite tell everything that's going on. I mean, I didn't see anything that looked terrible, but also, it's just hard to see much of anything. It looks like all my pistons were intact. I didn't see any cracked pistons. I didn't see any excessive rust, but then again, it's just not very clear what's going on in there. It did look like, might have been like some oil seepage, oil spudge in there, which again would, I always thought my valve seals might be leaking, so that would give some credence to that. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. This is more just kind of playing around than anything. I don't even know where I got this thing. I've had it. I keep forgetting I have it, and I thought, hey, it'd be fun to use it for this, and it kind of was. Yeah, it's kind of dark. I don't know if you can quite tell. I'm taking this rear hitch off because you know what? This thing's so low, the hitch doesn't really do much. The hitch is completely unbolted. There are 3 bolts on each side, some big old 19mm suckers. But notice I've got the hitch supported. Yeah, I could just unbolt it and let it fall. I'm going to mess up my floor. I'm going to potentially hit myself or hurt something I don't want to hurt. So always when you're taking stuff off like this, support it. You know, get a jack, get something. Get, you know, if you just stack up a bunch of blocks, support it, because I usually could just let this thing drop, but there's danger there. So the hitch is off. You know, I always thought, well, it adds weight to the back, and that probably helps my traction as a rear-wheel drive vehicle. Does it really help? I don't know. But I want it off because, man, it made it hard to get to the gas tank and the fuel pump wires. As I'm wheeling around the rear passenger quarter, I notice, let's see if I can get this to focus. I notice this dimpling. See that? That is rust. See if I can get through it. It's apparently under paint. Oh, that's bad. That screwdriver went all the way through. You see that? That is some bad, bad rock. And so this is the rear quarter. This is not like a front fender or door you can replace. I mean, this is the quarter. The only way to fix this is to, you know, basically cut this whole panel out because it looks. Yeah, that is bad. Yeah, this panel is Swiss cheese. That is very disheartening because, you know, I don't know how well. I said I wanted to learn on this thing, but this is some major rust. I mean, it seems to be just this rear quarter. You can see down the truck, just rear quarter. But I mean, you can see how. I mean, you can see that's pretty solid when pressing on it. This wants to flex a lot, and you can see, I mean, that screwdriver's going all the way through there. Man, what a bummer. Just some fun nonsense. Taking out the fan shroud, there are 3 bolts in the top that hold the fan shroud in, which holds the radiator in place. I'm taking the radiator out because it's just nasty inside. And as I'm taking, there's also bolts. Let's see, kind of midway down, you can see that. So this top one, the speed clip is there. This back one, there's no speed clip because the bottom shroud, the tab is just broken off below it. I get over on the driver's side, and if you notice, there is a screw in there. The bolts are missing. There's a screw in the middle because both tabs are broken off on the bottom shroud. I don't know why this bottom shroud is broken off. The only thing I think is somebody took out the top bolts, didn't realize they were side bolts, and just tried to muscle this thing out and snapped them both off. Fun. I'm hoping my other parts blazer maybe has the lower shroud, just because I like things to be intact and complete and in good shape. I mean, after the rust in the rear passenger rear quarter, I mean, who knows? All bets are off now. But I guess maybe that'll be my welding education. But yeah, just more fun stuff of how this is put together or not quite put together. I don't know why. I mean, maybe it's just GM. I've not done a ton of radiator empties, dumps, but the petcock is right above the frame rail. So I have a funnel positioned under the petcock. I have a hose attached into the funnel. So I have a hose that is attached to my funnel that is dumping to my dump pan. Sorry, I can't quite get the right focus. Granted, I've not drained many radiators, mostly GM, but why is it that they put the radiator petcock right above the frame rail? I know it's dark, but that funnel, I put a funnel. I have a hose attached into the funnel that drains into my pan, but I mean, that petcock's right above the frame rail, so it is very difficult to not make a huge mess. I'm in my garage, I don't want to make a mess. You can see I've made a little bit of a mess. There it is. I don't know if you can see that, but here's my pan. I got a hose draining down. Can you see that? No, you really can't. So there's the funnel right at the petcock. It's draining down. And so there is, you can see, there's the hose I got attached into the funnel that's draining into my pan. What is wrong with my flashlight? Light is scarce these days. I'm in my garage. I don't want to make a huge mess, but it's kind of unavoidable. And so you can see these various hoses. I'd positioned my funnel under these hoses, so when they dumped, I'd try to dump it into the pan. Of course, you get a little bit of spillage just because it's not a perfect situation, man. They didn't seem to design this with all that stuff in mind. So this is my radiator. I mean, all in all, it looks okay. Looking at some of the openings, so let's see if I can get a good light here. So I think that is the transmission cooler. I tried to follow that line. It looks like it goes to the transmission. Sometimes I know cars have separate transmission coolers. I guess that's what that is. I don't know. But I traced it, and it went up to the transmission, and then I lost it. That is the heater core. That goes to the heater core. The heater core has been replaced in this. You know, I know I took out the interior and like rust-proofed it. That's because my heater core went bad, and because I had a puddle of coolant in the passenger floorboard. So here's the bottom. You can see actual some metal in there, which is good. A lot of gunk in there. And so I guess that must be like the supply and return for the heater core. Just like that is the return or supply, and that is the return or supply for the engine. So, I mean, I don't know. It looks in decent shape. I don't see any evidence of any cracks or anything. Certainly gunky. The heater core, that certainly is concerning. And I just wanted to clean this thing outside of the vehicle, because if I do a radiator flush with this in the vehicle, if I get this running, when I get this running, well, I'm sending whatever gunk is in this through the rest of the engine and heater core. I don't want to. I want to at least get this clean. This is where the bulk of the coolant resides, so I want to get this cleaned up as best I can. Now, I'm going to look into maybe just a new radiator, but first I want to see how well this cleans up. I looked up distilled white vinegar. That seems to be the thing, to do about a half gallon of that along with distilled water. So I'm going to try that to see if it works. If it works, great. If it doesn't, maybe get a new radiator. I don't know if I want to go like full aluminum just with what this is. Because, you know, this vehicle, I'm talking about chopping the top. I've thought about, you know, if I'm chopping the top and I'm making this choke hard, do I change the engine? So do I really need a 4.3 radiator, or if I'm going to go aluminum, do I go something bigger and better? Do that now? Do I do that later? I don't know. For now, I'm just going to see how this cleans up, and then I'll cross the bridge when we go to it. Because I don't want to buy an awesome radiator for this if I decide not to do an engine swap. If I do an engine swap, yeah, that's great. But, you know, right now I just need to get this thing running. If it runs, then I'll worry about all these other parts, because, you know, one step at a time. See if it cleans up. You know, everything's a bit of a test, and that'll be an experiment. Will distilled white vinegar clean this up? I think it might. See, I still got kind of leaking out, and I've kind of dumped this thing a couple times trying to get everything out, and still there's stuff. All right, so I have filled it with vinegar and water. I'm saying, see, it is like right at the top of that inlet outlet, and that one over there. I thought it would come out of these small transmission ones first because they are lower, but it didn't. I don't really know why. But I'm hoping. The good thing is I'm glad it filled these inlets up to the top, because I can kind of judge by that how well it's cleaned things up. You know, if these inlets and outlets look like cleaner, I mean, especially the heater corner, which just looks gross. I mean, that is clogged up. So hopefully it'll do some good. We'll see. I mean, I guess we'll also see, you know, what comes out of this, because it should be some nasty gunk coming out. So hopefully gunk comes out. Hopefully these inlets and outlets look cleaner. I'm gonna let it sit for a while, and we'll check back later. All right, this is what we got out of the radiator. You know, about a gallon. I don't know how much this holds. It seems like the radiator was maybe down halfway, so I would guess that might be in half a gallon to a gallon. It's not crazy dirty, not crazy clean either. For the radiator, I am gonna try to let this soak and clean it, and so I'm gonna sit it this way. All the outlets are to the top, so I can kind of fill this until I see it, you know, liquid coming out of the lowest outlet, and then just let it soak. I'm gonna give it a day maybe, you know, see what comes out of it, see what it looks like after I dump it, see if I can peer inside, and maybe let it soak again. But that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna pour a half a gallon of distilled white vinegar in there, then fill the rest with distilled water, let it soak, and see what goes. I'm just gonna have it right here. I'm gonna use a funnel to fill it up, and hopefully this will clean it up a little bit.